Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking some intensely heavy existential themes. But listen, we aren't relying on old philosophers or thick academic textbooks. Instead, we are decoding the profoundly surreal monologues of four bizarre entities. Sometimes the absolute best way to understand the complex, hidden layers of human nature, like why you might feel stuck in your career or why society just feels so overwhelmingly exhausting, is to look at it through a lens that is entirely non-human. So by looking at these allegorical creatures, we're going to fundamentally dismantle the way we view society, nature, and our own minds.
Okay, let's look at the roadmap for today. We're going to cover 1. Monsters pondering existence, 2. The illusion of free will, 3. Entropy and inevitable nihilism, 4. Civilization as an artificial construct, and finally, 5. The ultimate existential takeaway. It's a wild, slightly unsettling ride, so let's just get right into it.
Section 1. Monsters Pondering Existence. Now, we need to introduce the rather strange cast of our explainer today.
We're looking at a zombie, a giant alien, a fairy, and an Allosaurus. I know, it literally sounds like the setup to a really weird joke, but their roles as existential thinkers are incredibly powerful. While these messengers are entirely absurd, creatures of pure sci-fi and fantasy, their underlying message is a striking, deeply analytical critique of our own human reality. Think of them like mirrors. Because they operate totally outside of our human social norms, they can just state these brutal realities about life, survival, and ego that we are usually way too polite or honestly too scared to admit to ourselves when we look in the mirror every morning.
Moving on to Section 2, the illusion of free will. Let's explore exactly how these specific creatures completely dismantle our comforting belief in personal choice.
Consider how the giant alien views existence. To him, it's this chaotic, infernal realm where massive size and predetermined natural laws just totally nullify agency. The alien basically suggests that free will might just be a total delusion, something we desperately cling to unless a physics experiment conclusively proves otherwise. He operates strictly on his enormous, destructive nature. He literally tells us that out there in the vicious jungle of a world, there is absolutely nothing protecting us from chaotic collisions. It really makes you rethink that feeling of being completely in control during your morning commute, right?
We can ground the alien's chaotic worldview right here in the philosophical pillar of determinism. Imagine a magnifying glass focusing directly on the invisible chains that bind us. The alien observes that his very existence is set in stone by nature's chaotic randomness. He can't just sit and meditate. He can't, in his own words, kill time without killing others. He just follows his physical programming until death stops him. It's a stark reminder that we too are bound by physical realities that are just way larger than our conscious desires or our career ambitions.
And then we have the zombie. This guy represents a brilliant paradox. Here is an undead creature who actually desires a reduction in responsibilities and hoards resources he doesn't even need. It completely exposes the sheer absurdity of having an ego without an actual processing brain. He wants to broadcast his croaky voice, hoard currency, and starve others purely for the sake of competition. He admits he has no central processor to actually figure out why he wants these things. It's dark comedy, for sure, but it points directly at us, humans, who similarly consume, buy stuff we don't need, and climb the corporate ladder on pure autopilot, entirely lacking a deeper why.
Section 3. Entropy and inevitable nihilism. Let's shift gears from the chaos of nature and mindless consumption to the fundamental physics of meaninglessness.
So this isn't your typical storybook fairy. This entity literally steals adenosine triphosphate, the actual molecular currency of energy, from living beings. And by doing so, the fairy exposes that what we perceive as optimism, motivation, and energy are, at their very core, just mechanical elements. When you feel that 3 p.m. burnout at work, that's not a moral failing, it's just physics. We are essentially switches, turning on and off, bound by the universe's rules to eventually dissipate.
You see, humans possess this deep delusion of specialness. We really think we're somehow elevated above the rest of nature, that our willpower is practically magical. But the fairy presents a much grimmer truth. Our concentration and energy are just physical states, totally subject to the relentless arrow of time. The fairy laughs at the idea that we think we aren't just robotic machines. It steals our will and motivation just like sweating off active molecules of heated water, reminding us that entropy happens regardless of how incredibly special we feel we are.
Which brings us to this specific question. Do zombies even have such constructs? When asked if zombies have collective structures or societal illusions to hide behind, the zombie basically asks, why bother?
And that question cracks the door wide open for Section 4, Civilization as an Artificial Construct. We are going to introduce the most brutal critique in our explainer today, the argument that modern society is nothing more than an insidious, highly organized mask.
The Allosaurus steps in here, and his perspective is terrifyingly clear. He perceives prehistoric survival as pure, unadulterated luck and raw physicality. There was absolutely no deceit, no pretending to be noble. You survived because you weren't in the wrong place at the wrong time when a predator was nearby. It was the zenith of evolution, because these creatures didn't waste time spinning false narratives. They didn't smile to your face while plotting against you behind your back. They were entirely, brutally raw.
So, we have to contrast the dinosaurs' straightforward honesty with us. The Allosaurus points out that human lives are built on complex, artificial edifices. We create systems that falsely pretend we care about one another, but beneath the surface, it's the exact same survival at all costs mentality that ruled the Jurassic period. It's just that we've wrapped our evolutionary psychopathy in, well, actually, scratch that, we just bury it under politeness and bureaucratic policy.
This builds into a staggering list of what the Allosaurus and the zombie mock as are fake, corrupt constructs. Just think about your standard corporate office or political system. We use symbols instead of actualities. We create literal pages of empty promises, and we build entire bureaucracies of hopes, vowing to reliably manage systems that actually go contrary to our real values. Ultimately, the whole shebang is designed to hide the central desire of the human ego. The zombie even notes that corruption is essentially the very air these societal constructs breathe.
Which brings us to our final stop, Section 5, the ultimate existential takeaway. Let's bring all of these surreal perspectives together into one haunting conclusion about our fundamental human nature.
The absolutely crucial point here is this concept identified by the Allosaurus psychopathicus Savus. He argues that despite all our civilized bureaucracies, we have inherited an infernal gene. The raw, selfish psychopathy of the ancient past wasn't eradicated. It just adapted. It's literally scurrying in our bloodstream right now. Our society evolved to counteract its obvious effects, allowing us to manipulate and pretend, but the core drive remains entirely self-serving and chaotic.
We can connect the zombie's observation of cosmic indifference directly back to our own societal corruption. Natural chaos, whether it's an avalanche or predator, does not care about our rationales. Neither does the cosmos. So why, the zombie asks, are we so surprised when our own human collectives, driven by ego and this inherited psychopathy, ultimately don't care about others' lives either? We are ruled by the very same cold mechanics as the freezing edges of our solar system. I mean, is it really so befuddling that the sun doesn't care if Pluto freezes for all eternity?
Which leaves us with this final thought. If modern civilization is truly just a facade built to hide our infernal gene, if our free will is an illusion governed by physical mechanics, and our societies are just bureaucracies of empty hopes, are we actually any different from these monsters, merely pretending to be human? Think about that as you navigate your own highly structured yet deeply chaotic world today. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the reality in front of you.